Friends, hello everyone. Today we will analyze two critical directions on the front. These are the areas where Russia has become as active as possible in recent weeks. We're talking about Huliaipole in the Zaporizhzhia region and the situation in the Sumy region. The information space is now literally overflowing with reports like Huliaipole has been lost or the Russians are creating a bridgehead for an offensive on Sumy and so on. So what is actually happening there? Is there a threat of an operational breakthrough? And most importantly, why have these directions become so hot for the Kremlin right now? Today, we're going to sort all of this out. So subscribe to this YouTube channel. Don't forget to like and leave your comments. The topic isn't simple, honestly, but I've gathered the most complete picture for you. I tried to do this objectively, so please join in and watch. All right, let's not waste any time. We'll start right away. We'll begin with the official position from Zaporizhzhia, okay? This official position was voiced by the spokesperson for the Southern Defense Forces, Vladislav Voloshin. And so he says that the situation in the Huliaipole direction is currently difficult. Why? Because just in the past day, 23 clashes were recorded there. Huliaipole. Right now, it's a large gray zone, he says. The fighting is ongoing without interruption. The enemy is using two tactics: assaults by small groups and infiltration. Their goal is to penetrate deep into our defenses to capture key positions. It's important to understand the geography. In fact, 14 battles took place right in the city, the others to the north and south of it. The enemy is attacking from all sides, from the north, from the south, and from the west. Vladislav Voloshin describes the situation in detail. He says, look, the enemy is sending assault groups into the city. They reach the city center, and our fighters are engaging them in urban combat. In other words, fighting is already taking place directly in the city. And here's an important point, because our groups are also advancing. But to quote, it's very difficult to hold positions there. This is key, friends. The city has essentially turned into a field of maneuver warfare. These are the kinds of skirmishes happening now. This is the large gray zone, as Voloshin himself puts it. And now I want to talk about the enemy's long-term goal, because intelligence reports that the enemy has orders to infiltrate Primorsky. In addition, they periodically try to slip through the former Kakovka reservoir bed near Malokaterinivka. Why? To get closer to Zaporizhzhia and also to seize the commanding heights near Stepnohersk, to create a foothold for deploying long-range artillery so they can shell the outskirts of Zaporizhzhia and take control of logistical routes from Zaporizhzhia to Huliaipole and Orikhiv. Why, friends, is a breakthrough brewing near Huliaipole, and why might it fail? The official information provides a tactical picture. I've just shared it with you. But to understand the operational objective, let's turn right now to the analysis of a military expert. Kostiantin Mashovets, he wrote a big long read, a large comprehensive article. So the theoretical possibility exists. In the Huliaipole direction, the Russians really do have the possibility for this kind of operational offensive all the way to the approaches of Zaporizhzhia, but this is only a theoretical possibility. The enemy's resources are not unlimited, and they also cannot launch offensives everywhere at once. What has the enemy already managed to achieve? The Russian Vostok group has concentrated its main efforts right here. And according to the data, according to Mashovets, they managed to cross the Haicho River at several points simultaneously and also advance toward Huliaipole from three directions. In other words, they have actually occupied a significant part of the city there and have already infiltrated assault groups to the west of it. This is important. Listen. Their forward units have entrenched themselves in the northern part of the city near the school and have reached the central cemetery. So the conclusion here is this. The Russians are already close to capturing the entire city of Huliaipole. Mashovets claims this, not me, not Bibik Mashovets. That's what he says. What's north of Huliaipole? The enemy has also advanced there. They crossed the Haicher, entered Dobropilia, and took control of Danilivka. This has created the conditions for expanding the offensive toward the Vovcha River and the strategic Zaporizhzhia-Donetsk road. So what's the Kremlin's plan, friends? Mashovets describes the likely overall plan of the Russians. Let's break it down. It's important to understand this. First, the 58th Army of the Russian Federation is advancing south along the Dnipro by the Konka River, trying to cut off logistics to Orikhiv. Second, the 5th Army of the Russian Federation, which is currently trying to occupy Huliaipole after capturing it, is supposed to break through to the northeast of Orikhiv. Next, a joint assault on Orikhiv from two directions. And the final objective, a breakthrough to Zaporizhzhia via the Konka River. This is the scenario, the terrible scenario that is being written, Mashovets, but it already needs to be taken into account. Yes, according to this scenario, the occupiers are in Russian positions that are very far away. But ultimately, we need to understand that they might be planning this. Why might this plan fail? That's why I wanted to tell you about this. Why might it fail? Mashovets names several reasons. First, it's about resources and time, because such a large-scale breakthrough requires enormous resources. No less than, say, for the assault on Kramatorsk. It will take a very long time. Second, there's competition for resources. Russia has a lot of ambitions, including Kupiansk. We've mentioned cutting off the Kharkiv region, the Sumy direction, which we'll talk about now, and Dobropilya in Donetsk. In other words, it's impossible to satisfy all of them at once. Who will be given priority? That's an interesting question. Third, the main resource is time, which works against them. The longer the war lasts, the deeper Russia's internal problems become, from demographics to the economy. This deserves separate episodes. So every month that drags on, it increases the risk for the Kremlin to lose the war, even if they win several battles. So why exactly Huliaipole, friends? Another expert, Mr. Zhmailo, provides an explanation. And it's all quite down to earth, because at first they managed to push through to break the Ukrainian defense there. And that's true. Unfortunately, we are forced to acknowledge this as well. This forced our units to regroup quickly, pulling reserves from other directions. The Russian command, as always, is looking for the weak link, so to speak, and immediately transfers reserves there. Previously, the priority was Pokrovsk and Mirnograd. Now, as we can see, it's Huliaipole. The overall plan, according to Zhmailo, is to create those same pincers around Orikhiv and Huliaipole, to bypass the fortified areas and gradually advance towards Zaporizhzhia. But he also says that they have no guaranteed success. Carrying out this plan requires a lot of time, and our troops are regaining their composure, bringing up reserves and counterattacking. It has also recently become a hotspot. We're talking about the Sumy region. The situation here is different, of course, but no less dangerous. Let's compile data from several sources. First, the official position. The 78th Air Assault Brigade. In the northern Slobozansky direction, the enemy is indeed trying to create a bridgehead for an offensive toward Kotin. This potentially threatens an advance on Sumy. But all attempts are promptly detected and disrupted by the Ukrainian defense forces. Active defense and reconnaissance allow the situation to remain under control. Andriy Demchenko from the State Border Guard Service says that the Russians currently do control the village of Hrabovske. They entered there back in December. I want to remind you, I made separate episodes about this. They crossed the border, broke through there, but they are unable to expand the area under their control. That's good news. That is, our defenders are delivering targeted strikes, reducing the enemy's numbers, and trying to probe the defense in other places. Well, for example, near that same Myropilya, they are also absolutely unsuccessful there right now. Sources from the Institute for the Study of War, as well as even the Russian so-called war correspondents themselves, only confirm this picture, because fighting is ongoing in Horobivsky, but there is no breakthrough. Moreover, the Russian so-called war correspondents are complaining about the pitiful supply situation for their units on the border. There isn't even food or water. And by the way, this is a very telling point. And so as not to spread fakes, I want to say this right away. There was earlier information about the capture of Andriivka. It is officially refuted in the work of the troops. Kursk. Andriivka is under our control, friends. This is a reminder once again, use only official sources. There was a very unpleasant situation there with the guys from Deep State. I don't want to address it now. When the press secretary of one of the brigades writes, listen, Andriivka is under our control. This situation needs to be corrected. But Deep State just goes and blocks this user. The communication story is not entirely clear. Absolutely, by the way. We're all working towards the same goal. So what do we have, friends? First, Huliaipole is currently the most threatening direction. The enemy has achieved tactical successes there, that needs to be said. Unfortunately, they have captured most of the city. They have an ambitious operational plan to break through to Rykov and Zaporizhzhia. But to carry it out, they need enormous resources and time, which they simply might not have or might run out of. Our command understands the threat and is moving reserves. Second, Sumy region. Here, Russia is conducting sabotage and reconnaissance operations, as well as limited, I would say, assault actions aimed at creating a bridgehead and drawing our forces away from other directions. So far, they have only managed to hold a few positions there, such as Hrabovsky, for example, but there has been no systematic breakthrough. Our defense there in this direction is currently acting absolutely adequately. In other words, the Kremlin is trying to become more active on several fronts at once. Why? In order to stretch our forces, find a weak spot, and achieve at least one operational breakthrough before certain events. These events, of course, concern the negotiation process. Our task is not to panic. Understanding their tactics, timing, the resilience of our defense, and timely reinforcements are our main allies. The main thing is to trust our defenders, support them, and not spread false information. Thank you, friends. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Take care of yourselves, please, and see you next time. Glory to Ukraine, glory to the armed forces, glory.